All right. So welcome to the AAC Crash Course for Parents and Caregivers. So tonight we're just going to talk about information on AAC devices and simple strategies to use at home. And I actually have a few SLPs here with me, so we're all just going to get started by introducing ourselves. So first off, my name is Allie Kenny. I am an SLP and I am a clinical director at CST. I've been at CST for 3 years, but I also have experience in schools, in early intervention, and in another private setting. So if Emily, you want to get started?
Hi, yes, my name is Emily. I've been an SLP for almost 2 years, and I am primarily at the 2121 Clybourne location setting.
Caroline?
Hi, I'm Caroline. I am an SLP and teacher, and I am mainly at our 1422 West Willow location.
And Elizabeth?
Hi. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Wilkes. I'm an SLP and a teacher as well, and I am mainly in our Wilmette location.
All right. So we are going to get started. All right, so the purpose of today, we'll talk for probably about 45 minutes, and then we'll open it up to, for a discussion or if anybody has any questions. So throughout today, our objectives are to learn first, I'm going to define AAC and talk briefly about, why it's so beneficial. We're also going to discuss AAC devices so you can have a better understanding of your child's device or just a better understanding of AAC and what those devices are if it's something that you're just considering for your child. And then we're going to learn about some simple strategies and tools that can be used at home for those kids that do have those devices. All right, so really quickly, I'm just going to talk about what is AAC. So AAC stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication. And so it just refers to all the ways people can communicate besides verbally speaking. I think sometimes we think about, or when people learn and know about AAC, we think about those devices that many children and adults get, but actually it covers a huge range of communication methods that just can aid or support or replace spoken communication. So I'll just go over a few of those. So AAC can be unaided or it can be aided. So unaided AAC just means that it doesn't require any other piece of equipment, any other materials to do. So things like sign language, body language, facial expressions, those things that we use to aid our communication that don't require any sort of additional materials or equipment are also AAC. They're unaided AAC. And then our aided AAC are things that require ways to communicate that do require equipment, tools, or materials. So these would be things like if your child's ever had a choice board that they used, or pictures, or a picture exchange system, what we call PECs. Those would be our low-tech AAC. And then we have high-tech AAC, which is going to be the focus of what we talk about today. So that's going to include our iPad apps, computers, speech generating devices, things that have more technology. Okay. So this is just an example of some low-tech AAC communication systems. So those are like our pictures. Writing is considered low-tech AAC, using signs with our hands or those choice boards. And then again, that high-tech AAC is things that use more technology, and that's what we'll be talking about today. And many of you probably recognize that first device in the blue case at the top, because that's sort of one of our many of our children at CST, and just children in general who get robust communication systems, have devices that kind of look like that. Okay, now I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth, who's going to talk a little bit more about those communication systems. Oh, Elizabeth, I think you are muted.
I am. Yeah. So Ali mentioned robust AAC, and we're just going to talk really quickly about what that means. So robust AAC systems are systems that allow their users to communicate for a varying range of functions. So this can be to request, to protest, to label, to comment. We want our users to be able to do all of those things when they're communicating. Robust AAC systems also have options to support grammar. So we want to be able to generate those complex and those complete sentences. But we also want to have pre-programmed messages for advocacy, things such as I need space or frequently used messages. If there's a place that a child might frequently want to go, a restaurant, maybe I want French fries. Those are the sort of things that might be pre-programmed in these robust AAC systems. With that, it allows a flow of conversation and it allows the user to just use the device more naturally, which is also a part of having a robust AAC system. We want a system that can grow with the child because our kids are not always going to be 2 or 3. We want to have the option to add more vocabulary, to add, to add easier access to an alphabet or a keyboard as they grow. We want to make sure that the systems are available at all times. So that might look like having a paper version that students can use when their iPads run out of battery or if it's just not working that day for some reason. And finally, we want to make sure that a robust AAC system has lots of words, which is probably pretty obvious, but we want to have core and fringe vocabulary, including words that are personally meaningful to the kids. So core and fringe vocabulary are the 2 types of vocabulary words that we have in a robust AAC system. Looking at core vocabulary, these are the words that speakers use with the highest frequency, and we use it across multiple settings. So we use core vocabulary when we're talking to our friends and family. We use it when we are speaking to our teachers or our friends at school. We use it when we are ordering food at a restaurant. There's many different places that you might use core vocabulary. And in fact, core vocabulary makes up about 75 to 80% of the words that we use every single day. These words allow flexibility because they can be combined to make messages, and they are the front page on most robust AAC systems. So the picture at the bottom left of your screen is an example of different core vocabularies core vocabulary words, and you can see that these words include I, go, it, know, want, in, do. These are words that we would use often during our day. On the right-hand side of the screen, we have an example of fringe vocabulary. Fringe vocabulary is typically our nouns, and it's more specific to a topic or an environment or an individual. We typically can't combine core vocabulary words to create a new message, which makes it a little bit more limiting on their own. Some examples might be pig, school, TV, hamburger, hot dog. So just as an example, if you think about being at the playground with your friends, and if you're using the core vocabulary, you could use so many different words here: go, help, like, play, more. But the fringe vocabulary of pizza, hamburger, French fries probably wouldn't be that useful on the playground. Whereas if we were at a restaurant, yes, this fringe vocabulary probably would be more useful. You might want to order a hamburger, but you would still be using mostly core vocabulary: want, eat, drink, get. So you can see that core vocabulary is used across a variety of settings. So just an example here, if we look at the core word go, which is sort of in the middle left of this core front page here, I wanted you to take a moment and think about messages that you could generate with the word go, using just the words that you see on this board. So one example might be go more. And feel free to type in the chat or to unmute and provide an example if you can think of any. Yeah, go to school, go in. Those are all great examples. Go play. Go to bed, exactly. Allie, we can go ahead and click. So here are some examples that I came up with. They're very similar to the ones that you all came up with. Go up, go down. If you wanted to be picked up, go in, go out. I like to go. I go, you go get something, want to go. You know, those are all messages that we could generate, that we could say just from the words on this board. So one more example, we have play. Can you think of any phrases that you could make with the word play using the words on the screen? Play with friends, more play. Play here. Play outside. You play, I like play, stop play. These are all really great. These are great examples and really highlight how often we use the core words. So again, here are some more examples that I came up with. Most of these you guys helped me generate just now, but I play, you play, we play, no play, finish play, your turn play, my turn play, want play, all words that are all messages that we can make with these words. And then we also had help. We can go ahead and show the messages that I came up with. Play with colors. I like that. That's a great one. But again, combining those words, there's so many things that we can say just with the few words on the front page of this AAC system. So there are there's many different types of systems. I have put examples of two of the ones that we commonly see in our clinics. If you'll notice that they look a little bit different and they are set up differently, but you'll see that there's core words on the front page of these different systems, and all robust AAC systems will have their core words on the front page, and then you will have the fringe words either in a group or when you hit one of the core words. And so I have some examples of that as well. So this probably looks very familiar to quite a few of you. I'm just going to show you how we can get to fruits and vegetables and to toys. So one of the ways that you can do it on this system to get to that fringe vocabulary is go up to the groups button at the top. You can hit the food button, and then it'll give you the option to see fruits and vegetables, and you can get there that way. Similarly, if you wanted to look at toys, you could go to groups, toys and games, and it'll bring up a variety of toys and games. But you could also do it with the core words. If you touch eat, it'll take you to the food and fruit and vegetables. If you touch play, it'll take you to a variety of toys and games. Similarly, if we're looking at how we get to fruits and vegetables and to various toys, on this system, it'll always be accessed through a core word. So if we want to get to fruits and vegetables, we go to eat and up to fruit, and there are our fruits and vegetables. And if we want to get to our toys, we go to play, up to toys, and there are different toys that we might play with. All right, and so I'm now going to turn it over to Caroline, who can talk about some strategies that you can use at home.
All right, so like Elizabeth said, we are going to move into our communication partner strategies. So you guys as parents and caregivers are a major communication partner for our AAC learners. So as our AAC learners' main communication partner, there are some everyday expectations that will promote success with an AAC device. So first, having the device out, charged, and easily accessible. Setting aside a time to model on the child's device. Pick an amount of time that works for your family, for your schedule, whether it's 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes every other day, again, whatever works for you guys. Let them explore their device. This allows them to get to know the device better and hear it, give it a try. And just like we respond to verbal communication or babbles or sounds from children, we can respond to these words that our kiddos are producing as they are exploring their devices and kind of create conversations around them. Let them know that we hear them and that we hear this device as their voice as they're exploring. And then lastly, allow siblings, relatives, and peers to touch and explore the device. The more people they see modeling and using the device, the more likely they are to use it themselves. Our goal is really to immerse our children in this new form of communication, and a really great way to do that is to have others use the device with them. So you heard me refer to kind of this idea of other people using the device or a communication partner modeling on the device. So modeling is our main way that we can facilitate communication with our AAC learners. So we provide models of ways the child can use their device and can communicate with the device. So we provide a spoken model in combination or in tandem with the model that we're doing on the AAC. So this is often informally referred to as modeling, or a more technical term that we'll use is aided language stimulation. So when we are modeling and using the device with our AAC learners, we want to be modeling without expectation. So modeling without expectation means that we are using the AAC device to speak without expecting a response from our child, from our learner. There's no requirement for them to communicate, imitate, or use a particular response. We want our learners to see this device as their voice. So we really want to avoid it becoming work. So avoiding phrases that prompt them to use their words or tell me on the device. We want to let them learn at their own pace. So how do we model without expectation? We use lots of statements and comments and minimal questions. A great rule of thumb is to use the 3-to-1 rule. So for every one comment you make, or for every one question you make 3 comments. And if you do want to ask questions, try keeping them open-ended versus yes, no, to just allow for more and more communication opportunities. We can also use low pressure and pausing. Try counting to 10 after a statement or comment to allow the child time to process what you're saying and what you're modeling for them, and even possibly respond. And then, like I said earlier, providing a spoken model in tandem with the model on the AAC. So we're not just using our voice and we're not just using the AAC device, we're doing them together. We want to continue to model all forms of communication, whether it's verbal, AAC, and then the combination of the two. Using inquisitive language. So words like maybe, I wonder, let them know you're trying to kind of get into their head and figure out what they might want to say. And then honoring all communication attempts, whether your child or your AAC learner wants to use their device or try using their voice or use gestures or signs. Those are all valid ways for them to communicate and to make requests for their wants and needs. So we're modeling with an intent to communicate and make a connection with our learners. So we want to consider their perspective and not, like I said earlier, make the AAC device a requirement for them to use. So a great way to think about modeling is through verbal referencing. So verbal referencing, you start by describing the communication behavior you're seeing, say what that communication behavior means to you, and then you can model the corresponding language on the AAC device. For example, I see you walking to the door. That makes me think you want go. So first, describing the communication behavior. I see you walking to the door. Say what it means to you. That makes me think you want go. And then modeling the corresponding language on the AAC device. For our purposes, I have it in all caps. So what you'd be modeling on the device would be want go as you are verbally telling them what this communication behavior means to you. So I have some more examples of what modeling without expectation or verbal referencing looks like. So I'll go through a couple of them. First one, oh, I see you're pointing at the fridge. I wonder if you feel hungry. So you're describing what you're seeing, what that action might mean to you, and then modeling the corresponding words on the device, right? We don't have to model the full verbal sentence that we're saying out loud, but like Elizabeth was talking with those core words, we want to use them as we're talking through this idea and then model those core words that they can then imitate eventually. Another great one I liked was, oh, I hear your voice. It sounds like something's wrong or you're upset. Let's figure it out. So acknowledging that we hear them in this moment, we hear them using their voice, and we're taking out their device and modeling something's wrong, upset, to let them know that there is that potential to go to their device and use it to communicate their thoughts and feelings. So I have a couple video examples. Allie, if you want to play this first one for us. I know I'm having trouble hearing it. I don't know if anyone else did. Can we play it one more time? Could you turn your volume all the way up, Al?
Was that still difficult to hear?
Yeah, I can go ahead and talk through them. So in this first video, we have our SLP. She is playing with the child, and as they're playing with blocks, she is talking. She's like, oh, we're playing blocks. And then on the AAC device, she models play blocks. And when we send this out, you guys can go ahead and watch these videos on your own as well. Apologies for our sound error. Allie, if we want to skip to the next slides, that works for me.
Yes, and I know in the chat it says I need to share sound in addition, but I'm wondering. Yeah, I apologize. I apologize that you cannot hear that. I'm not sure why that's happening. Did you want to just talk?
Yeah, we can go through to the next slide. Awesome. So the next kind of strategy that we can use as communication partners, you heard it a little bit in the modeling without expectation. It is the power of maybe. So we don't know exactly what our AAC learners want to say. In order to respect their kind of authentic communication, their authentic message, we can use language that provides models without assuming their intent. So, for example, some of these power of maybe phrases sounds like, it looks like you might want, I wonder if you're feeling, maybe you might want to say. So after using these inquisitive or power of maybe statements, you can then model 2 or 3 options that are kind of appropriate for this situation. So for example, I wonder if you feel mad, or maybe you feel frustrated. So you're providing the child with some examples, some models of things that they could say in that moment without kind of assuming their intent, right? You're not going, say, feel mad. I can see you feel mad. Say, feel mad. You're saying, oh, I wonder what your message could be. Let me try and help by providing some models for you. So that can be really, really helpful in kind of bridging that gap between supporting authentic communication while also showing the child how they can communicate on their device. So I think the biggest take-home point as you start to model and learn device, as you continue to learn your child's AAC device, know that you guys are learning together. Give yourself time to learn, grow, make mistakes, make attainable goals that fit into your life. So whether it's focusing on 1 core word per week, setting aside 5 minutes to explore the device together, picking 1 section or communicative function to learn, or picking a new routine to model during. Those are all great ways to incorporate the AAC device into your life in a natural way, in a way that works and is attainable for your family. And know that you don't have to be an expert. Even us SLPs, you'll hear us saying these phrases all the times of, oops, I hit the wrong button, or I'm looking for XYZ word, or I have to go back to the home page and try again. All of those things are okay. Like I said, us SLPs do it. It lets your learner know that you're learning with them, you're trying and navigating that device together.
Okay, so next up, I'm going to go over some common myths that we hear as SLPs, and then maybe that you have heard as well as parents as you pursue AAC. So a very common myth that we hear is that the use of AAC will impede verbal language development. And the truth behind this is that AAC does not hinder verbal language development, and choosing to pursue AAC also doesn't mean that your SLP has given up on that verbal communication for your child. The research shows that introduction of AAC actually tends to improve that verbal communication. I know I've personally seen this as well as my other SLPs that are here today. A lot of increase in verbal communication when using an AAC device with our learners. And it's also important to focus on that multimodal communication approach. So taking any form of communication they give you, whether it's using their device, that verbal production or a sign or a gesture, and continuing to model that verbal speech as you're modeling on that device. A next myth we often hear is that my toddler is too young for AAC. So the truth behind this is that there's no evidence to suggest that children must be a certain age to benefit from AAC. There are no prerequisite skills in order to access a high-tech AAC device. We want to focus on finding the best system at that moment, but also, like Caroline and Elizabeth have mentioned, having a device that grows with our kiddos as they continue to grow and develop their own skills. And also the research shows that communication can be a vehicle for expanding those cognitive skills in a way to continue to learn and develop. Our next myth is that we don't need to try AAC if my child already has some speech. So even if your child has some verbal speech, AAC can also provide the means for communicating more understandably. So maybe some of those speech productions are not able to be understood by all of their communication partners. AAC can provide the opportunity to make sure that their message is getting across clearly. Similarly, expressing the exact message one wishes to produce, kind of like Caroline just mentioned. Sometimes it's a guessing game of what they might want or be trying to convey in that moment. And we want to make sure that each kiddo has the autonomy over their communication and is able to express exactly what they're needing, and it's not just us assuming what they might want. Also, AAC can provide means for interacting with less familiar people. So as parents and caregivers, you guys are the experts on your kiddos, but they are probably interacting with new therapists or friends, or as they go to school, new teachers, and being able to provide them that opportunity to interact with all communication partners. Sharing messages that are outside the norm of a particular routine, communicating with greater independence. We want to make sure that the goal is the kiddo to use their AAC device completely independently and have that autonomy over their communication. So that's a big one for that high-tech device. Also being seen by others as a more competent communicator, participating in longer and deeper interactions, and also expanding language and communication. So as we kind of said, as they grow and their skills develop, having that AAC device grow with them to make sure that they are able to convey those messages. And our last myth that we have is that we must try a low-tech AAC option before trying a high-tech option. And so the truth is that there is no hierarchy to AAC. You don't have to try those low-tech options that we mentioned earlier, like a picture exchange system or a low-tech scoreboard. We should always presume competence for our learners and provide them with the most accessible and robust communication system that works best for them. There are a lot of things that high-tech systems can provide that our low-tech options do not provide, such as cause and effect, level of use, those consistent verbal models, so that voice output is always there on those high-tech devices, and is a great way to have that verbal speech kind of develop as well with that output. Increased independence of the device. You don't, again, the goal is not to have someone with you all the time to help use the device. You want our learners to have complete independence with that. And also that consistent location of words. So on a low tech, like a picture exchange system, those icons can often go missing or be on a different spot. And in a high tech device, those cells are in the same spot every time. And it's a really important piece for that motor planning of, we know where all the letters are on our keyboard or where an app is on our phone. If it's always been there, we know exactly how to get there. And so that's what it's like on an AAC device, is having the cell in the same spot can really promote that success of the use of the device. And also, again, just that access to thousands of words through a robust vocabulary system that a low-tech option just doesn't offer for our learners. So we also wanted to open that up to discussion or throw in the chat of any other myths that you might have heard, or if you had heard these before. And we're happy to kind of look at those.
Okay. Monica said, I read that AAC is typically geared more towards analytic processors, and curious about Gestalt processors and how to use the A systems to build vocabulary behind single words. Curious to know your thoughts as the subject matter experts.
Yeah, I would say this is something that we're also learning as well, and learning how to support our Gestalt language processors. For those maybe not so familiar with that term, that is when a kiddo is learning language as chunks of phrases rather than single units. And in an AAC device, usually you're hitting a single unit versus a phrase. So something that I've seen done is you can create your own like My Phrases page on a device that you can go to, and it has those gestalts that your kiddo might be using a lot to have those accessible. I know that this is an ongoing thing that a lot of other SLPs are also really curious about. I don't know if my other fellow SLPs have more suggestions, but this is something that's like developing and we're trying to learn more about as well.
Yeah, I think something else too with those AAC systems is like Emily said, we can talk to your SLP because they can, one way to do that is making a My Phrases page, and then you can even put your voice on there or make it, so that it's more of that, like, it has more like intonation, because that can help. And then and also just modeling some short phrases, right? Not just the single words, but modeling some of those short phrases and modeling those often and consistently. Yeah. Did you anything else from our other SLPs here? Any other thoughts? No. I mean, that is a great question, and that's something, as we learn more about Gestalt language processing, we're just really trying to work together and figure out all the different ways that we can support all of our learners. Mhm. Okay. I'm going to just go through some of the key takeaways, and then we'll open it up again for just any questions about anything we talked about or anything that we didn't talk about. So, I mean, our big takeaways from tonight, if you got anything, it's hopefully that modeling is key, and to really focus on those core words. We don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be. Really look at those words on those first pages and try to make as many messages as you can, or just even using, a couple words, like we said, want, go, just on that first page, and you can use that for many, many different situations. So really just modeling, touch those talkers, touch those devices as much as you can, and just making sure that they're always out and available in case our kids want to use them. And just know that you are learning with them. And I think that we know that those devices can be kind of daunting, right, when you first get them, because there is a learning curve. I mean, for us adults, that's not how we've communicated in the past. And so give yourself grace as you're learning that. And it's okay when you don't know where everything is, right? It's okay when you're making mistakes on the device, or when you're having to take a second to look for words or to figure something out. That's okay. I think just using it and being on those devices and trying is going to show your kids that it is this, help them learn and show them that it is this great way to talk. And then also help them know that it's okay that they're doing the same thing, that they're looking for things, or that they don't, that they're taking some time to learn that as well. Yeah, and then also just use your SLPs as a resource. If you have questions, or if there's barriers or challenges that you're having to, to consistently modeling in the home, or to taking it out all the time. I know that can, even just remembering and bringing it from place to place, that can also be a challenge and a barrier. So if you're needing some help to kind of figure out some of those challenges, please, talk to your SLP. They typically have tips and tricks and ways to help increase the use of those devices in the home or out in the community. So, yeah.